In this podcast, our goal is to explore the potential impacts of technology on our social and physical health. What is digital media? Digital media is everything from news to gaming to social media to cable TV. Digital media is a term that can be found in a section of Media and Communications magazine, which was written by Alex Gecker. Digital media can be a great way to keep in touch with people whom you may otherwise not be able to contact. It can help maintain friendships and provide a platform for meaningful conversations online. Digital media can be used to provide education to those who may not have access to traditional educational resources. It offers a variety of learning opportunities, from online courses and tutorials to virtual lectures and seminars. Digital media is also helpful to those who already have an education. For example, students use the internet for research papers and study tips. Additionally, professionals can use digital media to keep up with industry trends and stay current on new developments in their field. Section 2. Addiction. When looking at the different definitions of addiction, they all emphasize that the addiction is difficult to escape and has dire consequences. Each definition, depending on the publisher, says that addiction is a brain disorder caused by external substances or activities. They lead to changes in the functioning of the brain and result in compulsive behaviors. Addiction can lead to physical, mental, financial, and social problems. Addiction can be both physical and psychological in nature, and is characterized by an inability to stop the behavior despite negative consequences. There are 4 types of digital addiction, according to SiteGuides.com. SiteGuides is a website that helps educate on and identify addictions, everything from anger to OCD. The first that's listed is information overload. Excessive internet browsing can reduce productivity at work and diminish time spent with family. The title information overload means that you are finding information that may be useless to you in the future. Another and more common phrase for this is going down the rabbit hole, which is clicking links and more links. The reason this is satisfying is because, by instinct, humans try to find out about their environment to fill the gap in their knowledge. This backfires because the internet is an infinite database of information, real or false. The second listed addiction is compulsions. This is the most common addiction seen in modern days. It includes excessive gaming, trading stocks, gambling, and in some cases, auctions. This addiction can often cause people to overspend their money. The third listed is the cybersex addiction. This is often a dark side of the internet for people. Surfing pornography websites often affect real-life relationships with people. The fourth listed is cyber relationships. Cyber relationship. Too much time is spent on social networking sites so that you seem to lose sight of your real friends and family. Although there might be research directly related to the increase of health issues when there is an addiction, addiction makes you need more of something to satisfy you. Let's use alcohol as an example. In The Teenage Brain, the authors describe the brain building a tolerance to the substance. What makes it dangerous is that now you need to have more alcohol in order to feel the same amount of dopamine release. Dopamine, if anyone needs a reminder, is the brain chemical that makes you feel happy when drinking, eating, exercising, or even abusing drugs and other activities. To give a personal example, in middle school, I was one of the people who would be on their iPad the whole school day. I would watch YouTube and play Terraria and Minecraft and online games. It originally was very exciting because I was not allowed to play on school days during elementary. Now that I had my own iPad, I could do whatever I wanted without adult supervision. After a while, I built up a tolerance for games and videos. My parents, using the screen time function on Apple devices, found that the game had taken over. One day, during my little brother's birthday, I grabbed my iPad and played Terraria in the closet, beating the final boss. Imagine my surprise when I got a Find My ping on my iPad. I panicked, but because of my addiction, I stayed on the game. I hadn't gotten that dopamine release yet, and my brain couldn't let go. The only way I finally stopped was when my parents found me, standing in the closet, crying over the digital world that the digital monster had destroyed. I was grounded from all technology for the next 3 weeks, and as I stayed off of it, I learned that there was more to live for than a few lines of code that made up a digital, blocky world. That time away from digital media, for me, was my first ever digital detox, which paved the path for me to build a new resistance to tech. We will talk about the digital detox at the end of the podcast. The negative effects of digital media. Technology makes you lose track of time. One time, I went to a class and the teacher asked the students, "Have you guys ever sat on your phones and then looked at the time and said, 'Crap, it's been 10 minutes'? Funny enough, I answered that I would be surprised if only 10 minutes went by. Ever heard of the phrase, "time flies when you're having fun"? If you sat on your phone for 15 hours a day, would you be able to fit anything into your schedule? The answer is a straight no, because you sit there from 6 to 7 in the morning to 9 to 10 at night. This is how digital media might negatively affect your time management. There are videos on organization and tips on time management. Unfortunately, watching those videos and reading those sites takes time, which can ruin the point of watching them. Now you're further buried in chores and homework. I heard once that people think that ADHD is becoming more common, when in reality, people are becoming more unfocused and anxious because of technology. That person had a point and that I hadn't thought of before. The design of phones and their messaging system is that when you receive a text or a phone call, it will bring it to your attention as soon as it can, with a vibrate, a noise, or a flashing light. I want you to sit back in your chair and take a step back from your work and think, is that a good thing? You probably went through the pros and cons. The pros? If there is an emergency and people need to text or call you, you know immediately. Or maybe you are having a conversation with someone over the web and need to know when they respond. And the cons? Yes, well, that's easy as well. Many people thought of studying or working or other things where people needed to stay away from socializing and can't. Many people thought of studying or working or other things where people need to stay away from socializing and are unable to because of their phones. The whole time I was working on my podcast, I had people next to me who talked. It was interesting listening to them talk, but at the same time, I think of what the authors of The Teenage Brain said. They said that teenage brains can't focus on multiple things at the same time. For a brain, doing something like homework is boring, so it would want to turn something on like a TV or podcast to entertain it. In fact, it takes almost quadruple the time to do a task with media running in the background than it does to do the same task without it. Example for you? Try reading a math problem while listening and processing a podcast. This one if you need to. It's hard to focus on both, so you will tune out one and hyper-focus on the other. As a side fact, real quick, music actually is processed subconsciously, making it good for entertaining your brain and doing homework. However, if it has vocals in it, you still need to process it, and so it ends up taking longer with music as well. Isn't that interesting? Digital media limits your critical thinking. Have you ever noticed that your phone is a great tool for remembering things? Oh, I need to remember that. I'll write that down on my phone. Or another example, what is that information? Let me ask Siri, Alexa, or Google. The problem with looking things up is that you can only read it or watch a video, and when you need the information, then it takes only 5 seconds to find out what it is. Ever notice that you remember what is in school but never know how to spell that word or do that chore without Google? Technology begins to limit our critical thinking because we aren't exercising our brains like we used to. We are more forgetful and less mentally skilled than we would be at our normal potential. Digital media increases your chance for depression and other mental diseases that may harm you in the future. Even modest use. Tech does not have to be an addiction to harm you. Simply having your phone at the dinner table makes you not only feel disconnected, but makes others think that you are not paying attention to the conversation and may leave you out of it. This creates barriers between family and friends. But what if you had no digital media? How would you interact with the world around you? What would you do to pass the time? How would you communicate with friends and family? These are questions that few are choosing to explore. Adventurers are embarking on a journey of a lifetime, a journey without digital media. They are discovering new ways to fill their free time, new ways to stay in contact with friends and family, and new ways to connect with the world around them. You don't have to throw away your phone or laptop or your iPad. You create deeper connection. You just need to disconnect from the internet and the digital media to give yourself the push to realizing the possibilities of life. So how about a detox? What is a detox? A detox or detoxification is a term used to describe the process of eliminating toxins from the body. Although we talk about digital media almost like a drug in some cases, the reality that you probably know is that it isn't a drug. However, it still intoxicates you. Your relationships, which can be frail depending on who it is, suffer from your addiction. Detoxes can help you in multiple ways. In the Gale database, there is an article called Digital Detox. It is an excerpt from Gale Health and Wellness online collection. It says that the detoxes can help you disconnect from digital media and reintroduce you to the real world. During my family's detox over my winter break of 2022, we did a near complete digital detox. I found that by not being able to play my video games or stay up to date on YouTube, I no longer cared about logon streaks and whether Wreck-Rap 2 posted a new video. After that break from school and technology, I went home more extroverted and enthusiastic about everything. During the short time back to school, I took up comic drawing, talking to people, and exploring the school campus and enjoying my books. Before we end the podcast, let's do a recap on the topic. Although digital media, including websites, digital communication services, and video games, can help us in everyday life, it can harm us and our relationships with other people. This includes limiting your focus, time management, and critical thinking. Thank you for listening in on this podcast.